Noir, suspense, hard-boiled fiction. I'm Steve Gomez, mystery writer and chief investigator at the Noir Factory. The biggest names in mystery and suspense walk through our doors. They know the score, and it's my job to find it. Here, we get to the truth, no matter who gets hurt. Welcome to a Noir Factory Interrogation. Eddie Moeller is the founder and president of the Film Noir Foundation. According to their website, the Film Noir Foundation is a nonprofit public benefit corporation created as an educational resource regarding the cultural, historic, and artistic significance of film noir as an American original cinematic movement. Eddie's also the host of Noir City, the coolest nonprofit fundraiser known to man. Noir City is a traveling film festival and chief fundraising event for the Film Noir Foundation. The event is a fun, immersive festival that makes its home in San Francisco Castro Theater, but also makes its way around the country. In addition to that, in addition to Noir City, Eddie is also the host of Noir Alley on Turner Classic Movies. Noir Alley runs every Sunday at 10 a.m. and showcases the best in noir. Outside of film and television, Eddie is the senior editor of Noir City, FNF's monthly e-magazine, as well as contributor writer of Oakland Noir, a collection of Bay Area noir stories, as well as his studies on films and his work in fiction, which earned him the Best Film Novel of 2002 by the Private Eye Writers of America. Eddie Moeller has forgotten more about noir than most of us will ever know, and has earned the nickname the Czar of Noir. And I think that's about all the time we have. Eddie, welcome. Thank you very much for being here today.
Wow. Okay, you exhausted me with that litany, but yes, I stand accused of all that stuff.
And sadly, that's not even all.
Although I have to throw one quick correction that the novel was the best first novel. I think you said best film novel. It was actually best first novel from the Private Eye Writers of America.
Well, we stand
which
corrected.
I take great pride in because there's not even a private eye in the novel. So I'm glad they saw fit to give me that award, even if it was largely undeserved.
I doubt that. In fact, you're in very good company with that award.
I like to think so.
Okay, now before we go into all the other stuff, I want to go a little bit deep. Now, for an article we ran last year, you gave us a quote that you thought you considered noir as empathy for those in hell, which is a great quote. Firstly, what is it about that human condition that speaks to you more than other genres? In fact, like for instance, why is there no Tombstone City with sequin cowboy buckaroo Eddie Moeller?
Well, that's a good question. It's hard to give a definitive answer to that, Steve, because, why do some people choose one type of cuisine over another or decorate their house a certain way and not a different way? I mean, you can try to analyze it, but there's just something about it that is the basic appeal. And I think for me, it's a combination of what appeals to me as a storyteller. I've always been very drawn to stories in which there's ambiguity, there's a narrative complexity. I'm comfortable with the unknown and uncertainty, and so that is a large part of noir. I'm also very fond of the period in which it came to fruition. I really am a aficionado of mid-20th century America. I think it stands as, in many ways, like the zenith for our culture. We won World War II. We were at the height of not only our power, but our style. We were learning to accommodate all of these different artists from around the world. The rise of the African American influence in music, the European influence in the arts, that particular American style that we discovered in the literature. All that stuff was sort of at its peak at the same time that film noir was, in its heyday. So I guess that's a long answer for like why these stories appeal to me particularly, but that's the answer I'm given.
Well, you were in some great company there, and I think you're right. That really is an immortal time. There's I know a lot of film historians love. I think it's is it Elliot Gould's Long Goodbye?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That just doesn't seem to match up. I've never been a fan of that film, and I know there are people who either love it or hate it, and I've just never been able to love it.
Well, if I don't mind the film at all. I mean, I'm a big fan of. I just don't. No one would ever convince me that that's like anything but a subversion of Raymond Chandler, not a depiction of Raymond Chandler's world. So I have no problem with that. I mean, I don't hate the film or anything. I think what Altman does is really interesting and valid. I think it's valid. But yeah, Elliot Gould is not on my short list of guys who I envision as Philip Marlowe.
No. But it does make a very definitive statement. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, now, the Film Noir Foundation does great work with the discovery and restoration of classics and also the little knowns. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what you feel is one of the foundation's, or has been one of the foundation's biggest struggles in bringing back film or a particular film to a modern audience?
Well, it's difficult because there's a lot of factors that come into play when you want to rescue a film. And we are constantly hearing from people saying, when are you going to save this movie? Why can't we see that movie? And it's very difficult to explain to them that in many cases these movies that have gone missing are still owned by by entities that really don't have any financial interest in the existence of these pictures because they're not going to be able to make money with them. So this is one obstacle that we face. There may be a studio movie that we would love to restore, but we have to ask ourselves, does it make sense for us to raise money from, and honestly, Steve, most of our money comes, through small donations from people who love these movies. I mean, we get our big drop from great donors like the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, and we'll apply for grants and things here and there. But truthfully, the bedrock comes from just the fans themselves, and as you pointed out in the intro, box office receipts from the Noir City film festivals. So I have to be very, very conscientious about how that money is spent. And one thing I don't really like doing is preserving or restoring a film that's actually owned by a studio that could afford to do it themselves. That's like a no-win situation in a way. So what we do is we look for orphans. Those are films that no longer have a rights holder. Maybe they were independently produced. They slipped through the cracks. And if we can locate materials for that movie, then we can go through all the administrative work that's required to sort of say this movie is free and clear for us to restore. And, for example, in the case of two films we recently did, Woman on the Run and Too Late for Tears, we were not only able to restore those films as 35 millimeter films, right, the original artifacts, but we were able to make a deal with Flicker Alley, the DVD company, to actually put them out and distribute them on Blu-ray and DVD. That's like the best case scenario. It's not always easy to achieve that. Sometimes the difficulty you encounter is just, I just can't find material that is good enough. And this is a real challenge these days because people have gotten very, very spoiled with what they consider to be a quality image. So that's a real challenge for us. When we did Too Late for Tears, we were creating a 35 millimeter film from various sources, from a dupe negative, from a 35 millimeter positive print, and stuff that was missing from a 16 millimeter print that we had of the film, where, believe it or not, in certain sections of the movie, that 16 print provided the best image of certain shots that we used to build this restoration. So, and then after all of that, we still had to upgrade when it went to digital in order to give people a sharpness and a clarity in the image that they expect now from digital. So all of this is quite costly and very expensive. And, I'm going to say this just flat out. You don't make your money back doing this. So, I mean, this is totally a labor of love. I mean, there is no way that people who do film restoration actually make their money back. It just doesn't happen. You're doing this because you believe, or you can't believe, that this thing that you love is going to disappear and somehow become extinct. So you do whatever it takes to save it, but you're not making money in the process.
Yeah, that is heartbreaking. When you read about the history of films, you can actually read about stars that were huge that you don't see, that there's no evidence of.
Yeah, that you don't know anything about. I just wrote a piece about a film that they're showing at the San Francisco Silent Film Festival in June, a very early Todd Browning film called Outside the Law, that stars Lon Chaney in one of the early roles he had with Browning. They made a lot of movies together. Mm-hmm. But I really didn't know anything about the actress in that movie, Priscilla Dean, and that's her movie. And honest to God, I'd never seen her in a movie before. So I'm watching this film, and it's like, she's kind of extraordinary. Who is this woman? And then I start doing the research, and it's like, wow, she was a big star. And there was a bidding war amongst all the studios for her, and she was like an early feminist icon. And I confess, it's like I was totally ignorant of Priscilla Dean. So this is what we're talking about. And Outside the Law is a movie that was virtually lost until a few decades ago, when I think a print turned up in some barn in Minnesota or something that got left there. And so in a lot of cases it's kind of fluky, that somebody has to be out there looking for this stuff. And I'm excited to say, though, that I think you're seeing more of this than ever before. I don't know exactly what to attribute that to. It may be an offshoot of the digital revolution, that there's a market now that exists beyond theatrical exhibition, and so people are like, well, if we save this and we actually preserve it digitally, there are people that are going to see this. So that it actually, although, I said you're never going to get rich doing this or even make money, but there is a commercial viability to it that probably didn't exist 20 or 25 years ago, at the time that a lot of these films started to disappear. And so I think then it was like, well, just let them go. Nobody's going to want to watch this movie anyway. I mean, there have been many instances of that throughout movie history, throughout Hollywood history, where really it's like, yeah, nobody wants this stuff. Let's just dump it.
Well, part of the reason is yourself. You're out there, you're out there preaching it all the time. So I'm going to jump ahead, actually, in my notes here and say, along those same lines, you're getting a kind of revival with noir now. You're getting, the time frame hasn't really transferred into major Hollywood studios. You've seen some films that have come out set in that, with that feel, that haven't worked out well. But you're seeing television shows and games and comics and podcasts like us. In fact, Archer is, being lauded for embracing that noir feel. Do you think that's one of the places for the growth in the art form?
I do, actually. It's interesting to see how the original notion of noir is extended or in some cases just imitated. But I do feel that what you're saying is true, and I don't think you're going to see it in movie theaters so much, just because that's not the way the business works any longer. I mean, movie theaters are about tentpole movies or special event movies or something, and let's face it, I mean, noir is something that people think they know. So are they going to go out to a movie theater to see, you know, this year's noir film? I don't really know, but I do believe that they would be far more comfortable finding it on cable TV, or as you've pointed out, you know, comic books, or dare I say, graphic novels, you know, crime fiction. I find that one art where I think the original influence of noir is most felt is in music. I think there are a lot of bands, a lot of singer-songwriters who are very much inspired by the movies and that classic noir era, the crime fiction, and I think they are doing an oral, if you will, equivalent of that original style and updating it a little bit, which I think is sort of crucial. I also think that the revival has something to do with a younger generation recognizing that this was the height of American style, and that they're embracing it, and it's like, wow, this is great. And that has everything to do with the films, obviously, but also the style, the clothes, the cocktail culture, all of this stuff. I think for a lot of, I mean, I know this because these are the people who come to the Noir City festivals, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's also become a part of it, you know. And I'm seeing this now, you know, with the show on TCM, with the Noir Alley show on TCM. What I find intriguing about that is how many people are being drawn to this, like, for the first time. Like, I didn't know that I would like film noir, but, you know, wow, I really enjoy watching these movies. And I mean, TCM is unparalleled for providing, you know, the gateway to American cinema like that. And so I just find it interesting that I think a lot of people, like my hardcore fan base, who know all these movies, they sort of take it for granted that, like, everybody knows this and everybody loves this stuff. And it's like, no, there's a whole world out there that are maybe just experiencing it for the first time. And I have said, I actually said this to the folks at TCM before the Noir Alley concept even came up. I said, you know, in my estimation, film noir is like the gateway drug to classic cinema. Because I say, if you want to attract young people to classic cinema, your best bet is probably starting off showing them film noir. Because they realize, oh, those old movies aren't as corny as I thought, and they're pretty stylish, and they're pretty sexy, and wow, the language is amazing, and these visuals are extraordinary, and that's what gets them hooked. That's what they'll watch a black and white noir film where they may not spend the time to watch a black and white screwball comedy or a historical biopic or something, you know. So that's why I find it very significant that TCM has taken this step to give me this show and sort of expand the audience for noir.
Hi, Steve Gomez here. One of the mandates of the Noir Factory, our mission statement, if you will, is to bring you new episodes of true crime history, noir analysis, and artist profiles regularly to a computer, iPad, or smartphone near you. In addition to that, we've also kept the home fires burning on our website, our Facebook page, as well as on Twitter and Instagram. If you haven't checked those out, I urge you to do so. And in addition to those familiar avenues, we have new and exciting things coming into our future. although it's way too early to mention them. We're currently hard at work on making plans for and putting the finishing touches on. And you can keep up on everything we do by visiting thenoirfactory.com and signing up for our mailing list. About once a month, we'll shoot you the skinny on and make sure you get a shot at it. And we'll never spam you or share your email address with a rival mob. And you can take that to the bank, where my name isn't. And now we return you to this week's crime, already in progress.
This is just an outsider's view of it. It looked like Summer of Darkness was huge and built up a lot of momentum going into it. And Noir Alley seems to have a lot of buzz on social media. And quite frankly, I love those hard-boiled vocabulary lessons you give.
That was a great idea. That was not my idea. They sprung that on me literally right on the set. I mean, it's funny, that stuff that you see, those social media, whatever you call them, the promos, the squibs, the whatever they are, it's pretty funny because I'm pretty good-natured about all that stuff. But truly, I mean, we're doing the show, and then the social media crew comes in, and it's like, Eddie, we're going to take 30 minutes and we're going to do this thing. And I say, oh, what is that? And they go, we're just going to throw expressions at you, that we've culled from all of these films, and let's see if you can explain what they mean. And I mean, literally, there was no rehearsal or anything for that stuff. We just did that cold, which I think is great because it seems very spontaneous when you see it, and that's because it was. Likewise, they do this thing called Noir or Not, which, of course, if you've been reading the Film Noir Foundation's Noir City magazine, you know that we do a regular feature in there called Noir or Not. But it's funny because in that instance, they would do these things, and it would be like, okay, we're just going to give you the title, and you tell us in 10 seconds, Noir or Not. That's how we did it.
Well, they really caught it. In fact, I was working with someone who edited a piece of mine, and they really pulled me aside, and they said, what is this Gunsel thing you talked about? So I go, ha, look at that.
Yes. So, that was the very first one they sprung on me, and I said, okay, you want to go there? We'll go there. And they kept it. They used it. So that was fantastic.
That's near and dear to my heart. Now, I'm really glad you mentioned the sort of what is noir, what is not noir. Now, a lot of your fan base are going to be really worked up. They're going to be very rigid about what is noir. Has to be between a certain time period. Has to have certain elements to it. I noticed that you're not as rigid about that sort of thing. Now, I appreciate that, but do you think that those parameters kind of force you into a corner with what films you would work with, or is the art form more forgiving than that?
My attitude about this is it really just, I wear a lot of hats, okay? Mm-hmm. So if I'm writing if I write an essay and I say, here are the 10 definitive noir films, right? I'm going to be very serious about that, and I'm going to list, Double Indemnity and Out of the Past and, Touch of Evil and all, and that's it. But if I'm doing a film festival and it's year 15 and I want to show stuff that just doesn't get shown, and also, I mean, you have to understand, some people are sitting there and they have spent their life, the way I term it, dealing with movies the way people, collect butterflies or something. It's like this is what it is. I've identified the species. I'm pinning it to the thing, and that's it. I will brook no contradiction. Don't tell me that this butterfly is that butterfly because it's not. I don't do that because I'm also running a foundation trying to restore films, and if I think a film has merit, but I don't know that it's a hard and fast film noir, am I going to say, sorry, that I'm going to let that film sink because it's not really film noir. And by the same token, if I'm showing films and, I want to put on a good show because I want to fill a theater. I'm going to show movies that I think are really good and that people need to see. And I'll stand right up in front of an audience and say, okay, look, confession, this movie isn't even close to being a film noir. But this is why I'm showing it, and this is why I think it has value. And, every so often, 2 or 3 people in an audience of 600 will say, how dare you? How dare you try to foist that off on us as film noir? And that doesn't actually bother me.
Sure, we've enjoyed it, but nonetheless.
Yeah. I mean, my all-time favorite example of that was in Portland. I showed a film that we preserved called The Hunted with Preston Foster and Belita, the ice skater, the ice queen of noir. And I showed this movie, which in many ways, up until the very end, is almost a definitive film noir in terms of its look and feel and theme and the ambiguity and the femme fatale who's back to kill the cop who sent her up the river and all. I mean, this movie is totally film noir, but it doesn't end badly. It has kind of a cop-out ending, right?
Uh-huh.
This guy gets up in the audience and literally screams, "That's not noir, it's a romantic melodrama," and kicks open the doors of the theater and storms off into the night. And it's like, wow, so what were you thinking for the first 88 minutes of the film, I don't know. It's just that kind of stuff amuses me more than frustrates me.
That should. You should point at that guy and go, ladies and gentlemen, that's noir.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Okay.
But I also have to say, Steve, just the debate about is it noir or isn't it noir, or what is noir, or how do you describe noir? There is no question in my mind that debate is what keeps these films alive in the public consciousness. I mean, that's a big part of it. Nobody debates what's a Western or what's a musical. I mean, you can actually discuss it. And I don't have any problem with people having their own subjective definitions of noir. That's perfectly valid. It's like, I think, I can't believe how many people say it doesn't have a femme fatale. It can't be noir. and I want to say to them, then the genre is about 20, 25 films. That's it. Because there's only like 25 movies that have the classic femme fatale in them. That's it. And sometimes they misinterpret that. Like Gilda. Like, is Gilda actually the femme fatale in that movie? I don't know. I mean, looks like it, feels like it, but when you really analyze the movie, I think she's the victim, not the Black Widow in that movie. So, this is the kind of stuff that makes discussing noir so much fun.
Oh, definitely. Now, we kind of glossed over this a little bit, but Noir City is the chief fundraising tool for the Film Noir Foundation. But it doesn't do it justice to call it a film festival. I mean, that thing is just a living, breathing creature. People dress up to it. They will have dinner. They'll go to I don't think you're doing the speakeasies anymore. But there's so much involved.
Well, never say never.
I think I think a speakeasy should be like a mandatory thing. But can you tell us how it has evolved over the years? And for someone who's never gone to one before, what can they expect when they buy their ticket?
Well, they're different in the different cities, but San Francisco is the crown jewel. The reason it's the crown jewel, quite honestly, is because of the Castro Theater, where we've held it since its inception, I guess, in 2003.
And that's almost a living, breathing creature on its own as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a single-screen, majestic movie palace, and it has 1,400 seats. So the Film Noir Foundation, the success of the first few Noir City film festivals at that venue are what inspired the creation of the Film Noir Foundation, because we were filling the theater. And wow, that's profitable. And so it's like, well, what can we do with the profit? And I am honestly sort of an altruistic sort, and I said, well, it's not my place to profit from these movies and the fact that we caught lightning in a bottle. Let's use the money to find these missing movies and restore them. And this could be like a one-of-a-kind event, and it remains a one-of-a-kind event. There really isn't another festival quite like this where, you run for 10 days and all the box office goes into the nonprofits' coffers, and once you pay your expenses, everything goes to restoring films. So everybody who goes to that festival can feel like when they see a restored film, like you played a part in it just by showing up, right? That's very important. There's a real synergistic relationship, to use a buzzword, between me and the venue and the audience, because the audience really created that festival. I mean, the more enthusiasm they pumped into the theater, the more I wanted to do more stuff and have more fun with it and make it this fabulous movie-going experience, which eventually led to my saying, it's not just that we're restoring films, we're restoring the experience of going to the movies and having it be like a social activity where you're a community. And it's not just let's go sit and watch the movie and, like in a museum and then quietly discuss. I mean, people go there and have a good time, and it made perfect sense to me to let's get some liquor sponsors, and, everybody likes a cocktail with their noir, right?
It's a natural.
And that kind of took off, and then, we bring in special guests to maybe introduce the films or provide some kind of little, amuse-bouche, as they would say in the restaurant trade. It's like when I showed Humoresque, I had a classical violinist come out and play an overture for the film. I mean, it's a simple thing, but it's special. It makes it very special. So it has just steadily grown and into what is now an institution in San Francisco, and I couldn't be happier about it. So but like I say, it belongs to the audience as much as anything, because San Francisco and those moviegoers really created that festival.
No, it truly is a special time. So if any of my listeners can see it, if they've had the if it's in their area, please, by all means.
Or even if it's not, it's amazing. I've had people come from Sweden, the Czech Republic, France, Argentina,
wow.
England. It has become sort of a destination event, and not just because the films are really good, but the scene is really good, and I think people are a little bit intoxicated, not by our free booze, but by the venue and the fact that you can see these older films on a gigantic screen in a beautiful palace like that, the way they were originally shown. There are fewer and fewer opportunities for that, and we specialize in it.
Wow, that is a testament to the film festival. Now, if you can tell us briefly, we've seen noir, like I've said, flourish in many places. How are things now? The book business on the whole is not flourishing, and lately you were able to release Oakland Noir. Can you tell us a little bit about the reception of that?
Well, it just came out. It's been out just a little more than a week as we're talking now. So far, so good. Johnny Temple, the publisher at Akashic Books, really, I can't even remember how many years ago now, he hit on the idea of this, a short story collection. I know Brooklyn Noir was the first one that he had done. And it just made sense, and he had this geographic approach to noir, and he saw it smartly as a sociology, right? So it's like, well, let's go to these various cities and learn about the city through the art of writing a quote-unquote noir short story. So obviously you're exploring the darker aspects of all these places, which I think resonates these days with people. And he's had a tremendous success with it. You have to be in the publishing business today. You have to have a brand, and you have to know your costs and just hit your mark, so to speak, and know your audience, because the days of like big print runs and all, that's over. That's just over. Yeah. So social media, like you are doing right here, has become so critical to being able to link people who are interested in the same thing, and that has been essential, I think, for the book business. And it's essential, really, for the film festival stuff as well. When I started out doing the film festivals, it was like, wow, I got to raise money so I can take an ad in the newspaper to advertise this festival. And now that's like, I haven't taken an ad in the newspaper in 12 years, and it's virtually all social media promotion now. I mean, and the newspapers come to me because now we're established, and so it's like, hey, it's January, it's time for Noir City. Let's see what Eddie's got cooking this year, and we'll see if there's a story in it that we can run in the paper. But they run an editorial story about it. Not, I'm not taking out a full-page ad to advertise it. I mean, I hope I'm not talking out of school explaining this kind of stuff, but this is the new world in which we operate, and I certainly, I'm running a nonprofit, and I'm trying to save every last nickel I can to preserve films. So if I can avoid paying for advertising costs, if I can, avoid any kind of overhead at all, that's what I have to do.
No, it certainly are doing a good job. And in fact, one of the things that people trip over themselves every year is getting a peek at the new Noir City posters.
Yes.
And those are things that people can't wait to put on their websites.
Well, that's funny you say that, Steve, because that's one of those things where I believe old school technique has been adapted to new school distribution and stuff. So my idea all along was, let's make a cool poster. A cool poster sells movies, right? I love movie posters, and that I get excited about creating the poster every year with my colleague Bill Selby, who's been the art director from day one, and we really enjoy doing it. And a lot of venues, other venues around the country, were a little skeptical about the idea that, hey, print up 200 posters and put them up around town. And it's like, dude, that's like 75 years ago. That's how you sold a movie. Nobody does that anymore. And it's like, no, trust me on this one. I mean, social media and throwing it all over the internet and everything, great. But actually seeing the poster when you're walking down the street is like the best advertising possible. And very much like the festival, the posters have now become like a thing. So it's like, wow, we can't wait to see, what's the theme going to be, and, how are they going to render this poster? And it's become like an essential part of the festival.
Oh, it certainly has. People can't wait to see that every year, and it doesn't help, or it doesn't hurt to have Miss Noir City on there as well.
Well, no, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. I mean, that's again tried and true, salesmanship, I suppose. But it is interesting how, just as an aside, we are very careful as to how we depict Miss Noir City every year on these posters, because when you look at the history of pulp fiction art, the vast majority of sexy women are being threatened.
Yes, they're victims.
On these book jackets and pulp covers and everything. They're victims, and we will not do that. And if you look at your Noir City posters, the whole history of them, there is never an example of a woman, cowering against a wall as some guy looms over her. That's like, there is no way in hell that we would ever do that. So our approach speaks to that aspect of noir that I think people really love, which is the empowerment of these women. Like, they're very strong women. They're very dominant women in these films. Stanwyck and Joan Crawford and Ava Gardner, and that's the model that we use when we create the poster. It's like she's always proud and defiant and sexy, and you don't have to feel like, ugh, this is kind of weird. We don't want to creep anybody out.
No. You. It's not a very fine line. You do a very good job, and it is always very clear that the women are in a position of power.
Yes.
Okay, so finally, what can we look forward to next? And that's kind of an ambiguous question because you've got like a dozen things going on.
You mean just next in the overall scheme of things, or next from the Film Noir Foundation? Or
what would you like to tell us? What's coming up with you or the organizations you're working with? What would you like us to know about?
Well, one thing that has been in the works for the last couple of years that is I don't want to say it's a detour, although that would be entirely appropriate, wouldn't it? I have taken a much greater interest in foreign film noir, and I see that as an almost unmined treasure trove that I think is really exciting, both to the hardcore film noir fans and the neophytes as well, who might be surprised to realize, wow, they were making these things in Japan, they were making them in Mexico and in Argentina and in Sweden, and now in Iran. I mean, this summer I'm going to the Bologna Film Festival, and there's going to be a selection of Iranian noir.
Wow.
Period Iranian film noir. So this is like a total revelation, and I'm happy to say that the fellow who's curating that series is a young Iranian that I had corresponded with, because he was the first Iranian to join in Iran to join the Film Noir Foundation. And I wrote him a letter of recommendation that got him into a school in London, and that guy has made good, because now he is going to Bologna to present an entire track of Iran. He will now educate me. So that's the kind of thing that really excites me. And the other thing is, I'm just, with all this stuff that's going on, I still am working on another novel, which I'm about halfway through, and I really hope to have that done this year or early next year, because quite honestly, with all the really good exposure I'm getting now, it would be kind of stupid to not write another book and somehow be able to take advantage of that, because as we've been discussing, it's not easy to get your books sold these days, and so I may as well make hay while the sun shines, right?
There you are. And we hope to have you here when it's complete. Talk about that as well.
Oh, I'd be happy to. I'd be overjoyed. You'll see it hits a lot of intersections of what I'm into. So I hope I find the sweet spot.
Excellent.
Because there's movies and boxing and 1951, and there's a lot of stuff in there that it's fun for me, and I hope fun for other folks to read.
Excellent. I can't wait. Now, where would you like to point our listeners to on the web so they can learn more about what you're doing and where you're at?
Well, obviously, our main thing is filmnoirfoundation.org. Because remember the org, we are a nonprofit, so filmnoirfoundation.org. And you can, of course, find that leads to many places. So you can get to noircity.com through that, or just noircity.com on its own. I have my own website, eddiemuller.com, which I'm sorry to say I haven't had time to update lately. And of course, on the web, we're having great fun with Noir Alley now. So, there's a Facebook and Twitter thing. So at Noir Alley on Twitter, and then just Noir Alley on Facebook. That's a great forum for people to communicate amongst themselves, and we sometimes do little prize stuff and, not really prize stuff, just fun stuff tied into the movies that I'm showing on TCM.
Well, there is a lot of great stuff there. I know I go there quite a bit. And like I said, I love the definitions there as well. So, Eddie, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate everything.
Steve, an absolute pleasure. And I do hope that when I do finish that book, I'd love it if you have me back on. Thanks a million.
Definitely. You take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks.
That's it for this Noir Factory interrogation. Join us again next week as we take a hard look at noir, true crime, and hard-boiled fiction. Good night.